HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
This piece was brought to you by Roberta's, robertaspizza.com.
This week on Meat and Three, we bring you stories about the coldest, darkest season. We start in a California vineyard.
It's cold, but it's wet, and things are still alive. There's a lot of life in this soil.
We explore 2 frontiers of cocktail culture, luxury ice and the rise of non-alcoholic drinks.
The rocks traditionally becomes 25% of your drink's volume, and as such, it imparts smells and tastes.
And we investigate the risks facing New York City delivery workers during the harsh winter.
In the wintertime, after 2 hours of biking, it's quite easy actually for the bikes to spin upside down or slips or slide.
Tune in to this week's episode of Meat and Three, that's MEAT+THREE, for some food for thought to sustain you through the dead of winter. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey guys, I'm Jimmy Carboni. I'm the host here at Beer Sessions Radio. It's Tuesday, February 12th, 2019. And guys, it's the 10th anniversary of heritageradionetwork.org. There'll be a lot about that going on all this year. One of our ongoing themes is kind of New York State, regional, local, and things that are that aspect of craft beer, which is what we love the most, local businesses, local breweries. And we're going to give a quick introduction of everybody because there's quite a few people in the room today. We'll start with our friend, the host of Brewed in New York TV.
Hey, my name is Matt Archambault, host of Brewed in New York on PBS all over the state. And I also tend bar at Fool's Gold and Fifth Hammer in the city here.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
And the guy that put the show together, a good buddy from up in the Hudson Valley.
Hi, folks. I don't know if I put it together, but with your help, Ken Landin, co-owner of Crossroads Brewing Company up in Athens and Catskill, New York.
All right. Thanks, Kenny. And you brought some of your buddies.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for having me on the show. Andrew Preston, founder of Local to Locals and owner of Hicksville Beer and Soda.
Andrew, this is a really special day for me, and I'll tell you why. I love the local movements. I love people creating seals and, organizations of businesses. So we're going to talk a lot about your local to locals movement, but just give us in your your own words a little intro to it. Because first thing I heard of it, but I know that a lot of breweries and distributors are trying to be part of it.
Yeah, so the way it works, it's technically a certification mark. Other certification marks out there that people are familiar with: non-GMO, USDA organic, or specific to the brewing industry, Independent Craft Brewers Association seal. But what this tells a consumer is that, one, a manufacturer like a brewery is independently owned and operated, or a retailer, whether it be a retailer, beverage center, bar, restaurant, is independently owned and operated. And if it's ever on a product, whether it be on a unique tap handle adapter or on a can, that both those conditions are present. So now consumers can be confident that the money that they're spending on these products or supporting these businesses is staying at home in the community.
I love that, man. We're going to talk about that for the whole show. And it has a New York State focus, doesn't it?
Yes, it works on a state-by-state basis technically, but it has to be proven in the state it started, and local to me is all of New York State.
So Kenny at Crossroads is one of your breweries, right? He's your first Hudson Valley brewery.
Yes, he was the first Hudson Valley brewery to sign up.
And so you also brought in
and
some
I brought,
restaurateurs?
my friend Anthony he owns Coastal Kitchen and Daiquiri Bar and Verde Kitchen and Cocktails in Bayshore. He was the first restaurant to sign
Anthony
up.
and Joe, you guys say hello. Tell us who you are.
Hey guys, how are you? My name is Anthony. We own Coastal in Bayshore and Verde Kitchen and Cocktails out in Suffolk County.
Great. And Joe.
What's going on? My name is Joseph. I'm a manager at Coastal. We have 14 taps actually. About 80% plus at any given time are all local to Long Island, which is why it was easy kind of to follow in Andrew's steps.
That's great. I mean, I love that there's like from Hudson Valley to Long Island, you guys made a connection. Matt, I know in Brewed New York TV, did you go out to any Long Island breweries?
Yeah, we did. We spoke to Mustache a few times on the road, went to Greenport Harbor. So we stopped by a few of them.
Yeah, and Andrew, what are some of the Long Island breweries that are part of the local to locals movement?
We do have Greenport. We have Oyster Bay, Spider Bite, Dubco, Destination Unknown, Oyster Bay, Barrier, Gun Hill in the Bronx was the first off Long Island before, and then Kenny over at Crossroads Brewing.
Kenny, we've been talking about getting you back on the show for a while, and welcome back. This theme, local to locals, came up, and you invited Andrew in. How did you get involved with that program? And why did you get involved as a Hudson Valley brewery?
Essentially, I got to lean into a little bit of the distribution market, but we essentially do have distributors that distribute our beer, but we also do a lot of self-distribution ourselves. And we were looking to break into the Long Island market, and we don't have a distributor signed up there, so we got hooked up with Andrew in Hicksville, and we just started chatting. He presented the local movement to me, and I mean, 30 seconds into it, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, so Andrew, you're the guy for the show. That this is kind of your show. But tell us your background as a beverage center. Different customers you have, and the role you play in the craft beer community out there.
Yeah, well, I've been in the beverage center industry since I was 17 years old. I'm 31 now. I was fortunate enough at a very young age to have some people that believed in me. Bought a store when I was 23, turning 24. I just recently celebrated my 7-year anniversary, which baffles me at times. And right off the bat, one of the
But you never had a job like Michael in The Office, right?
No,
never.
No. I was always a blue collar.
My daughter's
worker.
16, and she's like, "Daddy, is that going to be my life? Is it going to be like working at The Office?"
Maybe. I actually was offered a job as a financial advisor. I went 3 days in a suit and tie, and I said, "This isn't for me." So. And then one of the intriguing parts of Hicksville and why I wanted to buy the place was it didn't really have craft beer. The craft beer that was there was Sierra Nevada, Sam Adams, Goose Island. So I saw a unique opportunity. And the first week I was in the store, I brought in over $10,000 worth of craft beer. And since then, it's grown into so much more. And over time, you just realize that there's so much good beer out there, and specifically now in New York State, why not try to give back to other local businesses and help them? That's a big part about this is also networking, whether it be retailers, breweries, beverage centers, whatever it may be. We all face very similar struggles. The New York State breweries are competing in a marketplace where there's over thousands and thousands of different brands of beer that are sold. Same thing is as a retailer or a restaurant, there's a new corporation opening up on every single block, whether it be an Applebee's, whether it be a Target, whether it be a Walgreens, whatever it may be. So this is a way for us to work with one another to make sure we could sustain our businesses and be successful.
So Anthony, as a restaurateur, why did you join the local movement? And have you had a long relationship with Andrew?
No, we met Andrew when he started Locals to Locals. It's a great idea. And like he said, it's bringing local businesses together, craft beer, different breweries, and it's kind of bringing us all together.
That's great, man. Matt, what is this interesting to you? I mean,
yeah, man, it is. So you at your place, your two spots, some like dedicated number of lines is dedicated to New York State breweries.
Exactly. So I think Andrew requires 25% of the draft lines to be dedicated to locals. We were already there. We were pretty much 50% to 70% based on the day. Beers are coming and going, so we were already there. It just made sense for us.
And Anthony was a perfect partner for this because he already believed in the concept of local. He also has two of the hottest restaurants in Bayshore, so it wasn't like he needed the extra awareness and advertising, but he just believed so much in what we were doing and what we were trying to accomplish that he was willing to get on board pretty easily.
And what are some of the breweries that you have on draft regularly?
So we support pretty much all of Long Island breweries. We have Destination Unknown, which is Dubco. We have Montauk, Sand City, Barrier, Greenport, couple from the city, and we support all the local breweries.
That's a pretty good lineup.
And if you don't, the reason that 25% number came up, and there's nothing contractual about it, it's just kind of a verbal commitment to support local breweries. But an interesting fact that I've been told multiple times, and I've yet to verify it myself, so if somebody could find a way to do this for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. In New York State, roughly 6% of draft lines are New York State-based products. If you go to a state like Vermont, over 60% of draft lines are Vermont-based products. And to me, that was shocking.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy.
So,
I want to tell you guys a secret. You guys probably know this. I had my own place for so long, Jimmy's Number 43, and we have something kind of like what you're doing, a Good Beer Seal, which was just about an independent craft beer bars in the city. And I was recently shocked. I don't want to say the place, but a guy called me up and wanted some feedback on he's opening a new place on his draft list. And I gave him a pretty mainstream but pretty good craft list to put on 6 draft lines. Pretty easy assignment for any of us. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he came back with he was only going to use the AB Crafty portfolio. Mm. And so I know what you're talking about and what you're up against, because a lot of old school guys, when they think business, they think who's going to throw money at them or price point and other things. And they miss the big picture. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so price point wise, that makes a difference in the how much you're spending on a keg, but like how have customers reacted to seeing that you're participating in this program?
For us, it's better for us to buy a local beer. We can actually sell it for more money. People get behind it. People are excited to see it, instead of, like you said, an AB product where you can find anywhere. Local products and local craft beer for us just sells much better.
I mean, isn't that the interesting part about the craft beer industry, that when everything, like I like that you mentioned, like everyone's buying from Amazon, people are shopping at Target, and yet craft beer, everyone wants local, and there's local businesses and there's local jobs.
Yeah. But what's great about this is this kind of furthers the whole shop local philosophy, or the support local. Somebody could walk into Hicksville Beer and Soda and they're shopping local, they're supporting local, but they walk out with a corporate product. They just defeated half the purpose. Vice versa. They walk into Target or Walmart and they buy a Crossroads Brewing Company. They're buying local, but they're not shopping locally. So this logo is a way for consumers to easily identify when both conditions are present. So now we know all the money's staying home.
So let's say a theoretical brewery, I don't want to know if I can name it, the one you were mentioning before. You're not quite sure who the ownership is. You're not quite sure where the beers are made, yet they're based in New York. How do you quantify that someone can get this certificate?
There are standards that the brewery has to meet. They independently owned and operated, not a publicly traded company. Part of it also is that the liquid that's going to be using the logo has to be brewed within the state of New York. So that's where it gets tricky with some breweries. It doesn't mean you can't contract brew, just we encourage that you contract brew within the state of New York, or anything that's using the logo gets contracted here. But yes, there are some ownership that aren't as clear-cut as some of these other breweries. So it just takes a little bit more research. If you want to be a part of it, we're happy to dig into that research and really figure out what's going on. And if you don't, it is what it is. It's not for everybody.
Matt, let's talk about what we're drinking. This is a local brewery.
Yeah, I brought a few of the newer beers from Fifth Hammer Brewing in LIC. I bartend there on weekends.
Delicious.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cashmere Kid. All the names of the beer, a lot of the names of the beers feature animals, so it's a little baby.
I now know who I
goat.
have to talk to next.
Yes, exactly. I've also got this pineapple sour. I think they just canned it maybe today or yesterday, too.
So you're lucky. You get to work with Chris Kuzme, Mary Izet.
Yeah, great people, great beer, just a great scene over there right now. Fifth Hammer, if you haven't stopped by, is it's kind of a sleeper still. I think people are just discovering it. Been around for about a year.
Yeah, and
he can play the saxophone.
And at this point,
and he can play the saxophone.
Yeah, he's great. So Andrew, how you hear about a brewery? How do you approach them about the locals?
Well, luckily, it's all been through word of mouth, really. In the beginning, it was a few sales pitches, cold calls, and all that. But Anthony had reached out to me, and once I met him and we got him all set up, whether it be with the adapter pieces, whether it be with the decal on the window, whether it be with the menus that we give them, over 24 restaurants have signed up just solely because of his restaurant. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to just follow up with these people. At some point, I'm going to have to cold call. I'm going to have to randomly walk into people. But having a job that pays my bills, pays my mortgage, I do have to dedicate some time to that.
How many businesses in New York State would you like to sign up for your program?
See, that's the tricky question that some people ask me. For me, it's the more the merrier, not in terms of a monetary value, but in terms of the educating of the awareness of what it truly means. Right now, the less people are a part of it, the more valuable it is to them specifically. But in the long run, the more people are a part of it, the more people know what it truly means, and the more people will want to support it.
Yeah, and one of our friends just walked in, Danny Oliver from Island to Island Brewery in Brooklyn. How are you, Danny?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
You know, this sounds like it's right up your alley. I know,
Yeah.
you know, you're very active in your Brooklyn community. What would you want to ask Andrew if he approached you about this?
A two-part
campaign?
question. One would be: are you identifying all the farm breweries in New York State, and are you have you thought about our 60% New York grown requirements to add to your local to local, because that's how you truly know it's grown in New York, because brewed in New York, it's actually grown in New York.
Correct. That's a whole nother part of it. Those stipulations haven't been set yet. By all means, we encourage people to use as much local product as possible, but that is not necessarily a requirement of the program. One thing we wanted to do with one of these breweries is get a group of them together to do a collaboration where 100% of the ingredients were New York State based. We were hoping to do that in the fall during the harvest season of the fresh hops. Last year, it didn't pan out. So it's something we always encourage, but it's not necessarily something that's specifically required in terms of what we're doing right now.
Wow, that's great. And now we're going to taste a bunch of Kenny's Crossroads beers. And Matt, we're going to take a short break and be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. All right.
My name is Brandon Hoy, co-owner of Roberta's, a super duper awesome place. Roberta's is a very, 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 very proud sponsor of the Heritage Radio Network. We're also super awesome. Thank you, Heritage.
Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey, we got Kenny from Crossroads Brewery up in Athens and soon to be Catskill, New York. Kenny, thanks so much for putting the show together. I love it. It's Hudson Valley to Long Island, and we're tasting on it special. So you said you brought some stouts today because it's cold out, right?
Well, we brought I brought a regular Black Rock Stout, but I bought we're trying to open. Matt's trying to go. We did a good job on that cork. That's all hand. Everything's hand labeled, hand corked.
I had this the other night with my wife. It was fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate.
He's gonna hand break the cork and
first.
It's gonna get stuck in the end of the.
I think my buddy Andrew Preston brought it.
First washed bourbon barrels from Bootlegger Distillery out in Roscoe. So we took those and we obviously filled it with our stout. We aged it and then we cold infused it with coffee. So
wow,
we're gonna hopefully.
So he's using a wine key to get it open.
So I figured that was a little bit more exciting. I mean, our Black Rock Stout, it's a great beer.
I want to talk about your brew. I always liked your beer, Ken. When you
Black
first
Rock's
opened
a great
up,
beer and got featured in Madison Square Garden recently.
Did it really?
Forgot that.
Wow. So tell us more about Kenny, because if you listen, you can Google. You were on a number of shows years ago when you first opened.
Yeah, but
up.
the problem was when you brought me on the show, you put me on with Phil Markowski and Garrett Oliver. So I basically sat in the corner. But it was still fun, and it was very, very entertaining and very, very. I learned a lot from just sitting in and listening to those guys speak. So
but back then, you had Outrage IPA.
Yep.
And
Outrage.
Andrew, why don't you tell us what beers do you sell or want to sell from Crossroads at your shop?
Well, currently
Cheers to
we
you guys.
have the Outrage IPA, New Normal IPA, and the Black Rock Stout in cans and in draft, whether it be slim barrels or half barrels. And then a long conversation Kenny and I have been going back and forth with is his Greens Fee Pilsner. Golf is such a huge part of Long Island, and Pilsners are a nice, easy drinking beer. So we're trying to put something together to get it out all over the island come springtime.
And you guys were talking about different. So you're mostly selling cans right now of Crossroads.
Yeah, due to my connections with different beverage centers, I've reached out to them. A lot of them have been happy enough to support another New York State brewery and start carrying it. I don't have as many connections in bars besides the local to locals concept, but I do truly try to keep the two businesses separate. So
you're actually pretty interesting. You're filling a niche. You're not like this mega distributor. You're kind of hand selling a number of brands. Like
nowhere
Crossroads.
close to a mega distributor. So
yeah,
the majority of my business is still retail, but we are lucky enough to have a C license, which allows us the ability to wholesale. If you ask the state liquor authority, technically we are a wholesaler with a privilege to retail. But that is the majority of our business is retail.
and that's old school. So you can walk in, you can buy a soda, a bottle of water, or a beer.
Yep, and then we sell to. We have the flexibility to sell to bars, restaurants, country clubs, delis, bodegas, you name it. It's not the focal point of my business, but it's.
But if I'm having a party tomorrow night, I can call you up, get 10 cases of beer.
Absolutely,
and
we'll
the
be right
ice
there.
probably too, right? You sell ice too.
Ice, soda, water. We strive on service and reliability to our customers. That's our motto.
That's great, man. And then before you and Anthony were talking about, are there new sizes of cans, like 8-ounce cans? What's going on in the industry? You guys are seeing things that I don't see.
Yeah, so that was Nicaragua that we were talking about. Panga Drops.
Love Panga Drops.
Love it. It's fantastic beer. It's Nicaraguan craft brewery down in, I forget the town, but they're doing 8-ounce beers, little Panga Drops. So when you're on the beach and you're drinking beer, it doesn't get warm. You finish it before it's warm. They're fantastic.
And you know about that, Matt?
Yeah. Beer Street, they used to have them. I would buy them. I would buy 12 from Corey at a time and just bring them to bartenders around.
Ironically, I'm wearing their hat tonight right now.
And those always confuse me because you take one sip, you feel like you're done, so you swig the rest, and then later you finish 12 in an hour, and all of a sudden you realize what's happened.
But didn't you guys say you could also put like a Imperial Stout in an 8-ounce can as well?
Yeah, so it's good for beach beers. It's also good if it's a high ABV. This is a 12.5% Imperial Stout from Fifth Hammer. So you don't want more than 8 ounces of this. I mean, some people do. I don't.
Well, are we going to get to taste that too?
Yeah, why not?
We're drinking Imperial Stouts. Kenny, just tell us a little more about.
This is great.
Tell
by
us
the way,
about
yeah.
your stout, or Andrew can tell us about it. Who wants to tell us?
Who would you rather hear on the mic?
Whoever really knows.
What
about
would you
the
like
beer.
to know? The Black Rock Stout. We're excited about it. It's taken. It's been a great beer for us for a very, very long time. The Athens facility has been open for 9 years. We've been brewing it there for probably full 9 years. It's taken a gold, it's taken a silver at GABF, World Beer Cup. It's actually, the awards are on the can. We recently just got it into Madison Square Garden, into the Delta Suites. That took me about 8 months to do that. But, it's a great beer. We brew it all year long. I think that we're one of the few breweries that do brew it all year long. And believe it or not, we sell it all year long. So that's kind of why we brew it.
It's nice to have that flavor under 7%.
Yeah, well, when the recipe first came out, it was a little bit higher. It was right around 7.3, 7.6. Over the course of time, you want to try and adapt to people's palates, and try and, a little less boozy. It goes a little bit, a long way. And what's really great about this particular stout is it's a foreign export stout. So you don't get that, it's not a milk stout. You don't get that heavy aftertaste. It's very, very dry at the end. It's very, very light. It's easy drinking. And believe it or not, people go, oh, stout, they're very heavy. You can drink a couple of these with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least I can.
Now, Andrew got excited when you mentioned you got your beer into Madison Square Garden. That's a big part of local, isn't it? A few years ago, we had a show with Eric Asimov from the New York Times, and we were talking about why at the time the New York Yankee Stadium didn't really have any local pilsners. What do you think about placing? Let's talk about it again. You got excited about Madison Square Garden taking on Crossroads.
I think it's just great for the consumer that doesn't want to walk into Yankee Stadium, Madison Square Garden, and have your standard old beer that you could find anywhere. We do know that's a huge part of the business, but I think the industry has evolved so much where we want good tasting beer. We want to be able to enjoy craft beer, and there's nothing wrong. Everybody, that's why there are thousands of different beers, because everybody has a different palate. There's nothing wrong with Budweiser. There's nothing wrong with Corona. Everybody has their own taste buds, and there's a reason those sell so much. But it's now 10% of the market, maybe, craft beer. So there are plenty of people that want to try a Black Rock Stout at a game, or a Fifth Hammer, or Island to Island.
Anthony?
Absolutely. Craft beer is definitely where the market's headed. I personally would rather pay a little bit more for a great craft beer and drink something that's made close to home. Absolutely.
I always find it just impressive when I go into like a Madison Square Garden or a stadium. Like there's places that it's like the place is so successful, you don't even need to have a higher end list. And when they do, it's like John Brown Smokehouse. It's like, that place is so good anyways, but the fact that they have such an insanely good beer list gives them so much more cred to me.
I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to say his name, but the guy that called me last week and asked for pointers on his new beer list.
Say his name, Jimmy.
I'm not saying it because I can't believe that he went through the effort to ask someone for advice, and then all I did was call some of the reps that I knew.
Yeah.
He didn't really listen to their advice. At the end of the day, he was going to buy the beers he was going to buy anyways. So I don't know. I guess that's what I like about the local movement and the guys committed to craft, because if you're not into it, you're not into it. You don't have to fool people, right? I mean, maybe that's part of why we need your movement, because this way you can't fool people, right?
Yeah.
You can't just say like because it's on draft. Like it's Wicked Weed, or it's let me name all these breweries and which of these are owned by AB. Wicked Weed,
Yeah.
Breckenridge, Elysian. How many are there?
Golden Road. Yeah.
There's a lot of them, and you wouldn't know if you walked in and saw those on tap. You would think that those are craft beers.
And from a bar owner's perspective, a lot of times they want brand recognition, but that's where consumers walk in and they recognize a product. But that's a lot of what Local to Locals is about, and this was the marketing and advertising part I was going to talk about, is if you walk into a bar, a restaurant, a retailer, and I'll just use Long Island-specific examples, a place like Oyster Bay Brewing Company or Greenport Harbor Brewing Company, it means something. They're named after a town. If a consumer has a positive association with that town, they're more likely to grab the product. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they walk into a retailer, a bar, or a restaurant, they see Fifth Hammer, they see Island to Island, they see Dubco, they see Barrier. To the average consumer, it means absolutely nothing. So now they see this local to local symbol on it. They now know the product is local. So now it means something. They start researching the can. Well, Fifth Hammer from here, Island to Island from here, Dubco from Bayshore, Spiderbite, Holbrook, so forth, Barrier, Oceanside. I'm interested in trying a Pilsner. Well, let me grab this product. They go home. It's still the brewer's job to make good beer. If you like the product, now you go into a Target, you go into an Applebee's, and you see that same brand again. It now means something to you. So now, even when you're at this corporate location, hopefully if you're choosing to buy beer there, you're going to still support a local product.
So will Kenny be able to, at his Madison Square Garden gig, will he be able to have local to local on the beer?
He would not technically, because it's a certification process both for manufacturers and retailers. So like Anthony has been certified as a restaurant that's independently owned and operated, Coastal and Verde, and Kenny has been certified as a brewery. So it's a way to create that network.
But if you buy the can, there's going to be the seal on the label.
At one of those locations, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Or on the tap handle adapter piece.
Yeah, so to speak to Andrew's point, people come to Coastal pretty much every day looking for local beer. I'll take a local beer, what's on draft, what's made locally. And with the Locals to Locals program and these little tap handles, it's an easy way to show people what's being made locally. We're about a quarter mile from the ferries, the Fire Island ferries. And throughout the summer, 2-3 million people get on those ferries from out of town, and they pop in and they say, hey, give me a local beer. And this is an easy way to help support those local companies and say, this is what's local. This
Anthony,
is what's
how
on
big
draft.
is your place?
3,400 square feet. So
Wow.
it's fairly big.
That sounds great.
Does a lot of live music too.
And what were you gonna ask a question of Andrew, weren't you?
So Coastal and Verde, we were the first two restaurants to join on board of Locals to Locals. I'm pretty curious, who was your first client to begin with, and what was your sales pitch?
Well, the first one, if I want to go really back to show you how little I knew what I was doing, this originally started when I met with Blue Point Brewery. And then it's evolved into so much more after speaking to other breweries, and they currently cannot be a part of it due to their ownership in Anheuser-Busch, but that doesn't mean to say, same thing with Anthony at Coastal, don't stop supporting them because they still create a lot of jobs on Long Island. They still draw a lot of people. If you're going to support one corporate line, you should be supporting Blue Point. So then I met with Greenport, met with Oyster Bay. They were kind of easy to deal with because they had that name recognition, and then other people saw a lot of value in not having that name recognition, or part of it is we help facilitate the sale of the product before it's even made. So there's 60 plus beverage centers committed to the program on Long Island that the product gets sold to, and right now there's 20 plus restaurants. So the breweries are able to send an email out to these people and kind of see if anybody has interest, what the allocations would be, and all of it's pre-sold before it even leaves the warehouse.
Wow, man. It's kind of cool. It's a little overwhelming when you actually took an idea and ran with it. How long have you been working on this?
I think it developed in November of 2017. The first can, which you actually drank on air when the Barrier, Sand City, and Dubco guys were here.
Yeah.
You did drink that. They gave me a shout out in the 42nd hour. So I appreciate that. And then there's been one beer a month that has been coming out as part of the program with the initial 7 breweries. But now that more breweries are participating, we're expecting there to be more than one beer a month eventually. And then in November was really when it started to take off, when Anthony's Restaurant signed up, because really that's a game changer. Yeah, in New York State, there's only 350 beverage centers. On Long Island, there's only 100. You can only reach so many people. I don't know the restaurant quantity in New York State, but I could tell you Long Island, there's 2,500. So it's the potential reach there is far greater.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, Matt, let's talk about Long Island breweries. You mentioned in the show, Andrew, when we had Dubco, Sand City, and Barrier on. That was a special show because I feel that the Long Island brewing scene has really
we're still
come
waiting for
a long
Sand
way.
City to make a beer from their vegetable garden.
Oh, yeah?
I remember that.
But they came a long way because even back after Hurricane Sandy in 2012, there were breweries on Long Island. But now it seems like with Sand City and Dubco and Barrier, you guys are really on the map in terms of like top quality destination, worthy breweries.
And that's kind of what I've explained to people. 5 years ago, this whole philosophy and concept and movement, whatever you want to call it, may not have been as possible, or restaurants or retailers may not have been willing to do it because the quality necessarily wasn't there in the masses. now you have some of the best breweries in the world right here in New York State. You mentioned the Long Island ones. We're in Brooklyn right now. I was just at Five Boroughs. I stopped at Other Half. I stopped at Braven. The amount of good breweries out there is just tremendous.
And Anthony, where did you go today?
Today we went to Torst, which is in Brooklyn. It's in Greenpoint. 21 draft lines, I think almost 200 bottles and cans. Tremendous amount of craft beer. A lot of it's local. Just an amazing lineup.
That's great, man. Well, you guys, we're going to take one more short break. Matt will be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Okay, now we get one. Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey, check us out, heritageradionetwork.org. It's our 10th year. A lot of cool things happening this year. If you're a member, you're going to get invited to special tastings and events. So check it out, heritageradionetwork.org. It's our 10th year. So, guys, we got a great crew here talking the locals movement. Full house. Good buddy Matt Archambault from Brewed New York TV's on. Matt, how's the TV show doing?
TV show's going well. Since it started airing in the city here, where I have a bigger network, people have been hearing great feedback on it. So we're working on trying to find a way to make more episodes. So hopefully that's coming up soon.
Great, man. We're going to keep having you on the show. So, Andrew, you poured us another beer. Is this a locals certified brewery?
Yes, this was a beer done by Spider Bite Brewing Company in Holbrook. They're actually one of those unique examples of somebody that does contract out of state, 3 of their beers. But this specific beer was done at Great South Bay, another New York State brewery. And this is a chocolate coconut porter, very easy drinking, and it did very well this year.
So talking about that, where I remember, I can say their name now, 6 Point, when they first started, they were brewing in Red Hook, but very quickly, they were brewing out of state for the bulk of their production. You were at Five Boroughs today, and you mentioned Great South Bay. Those are some breweries that have capacity to make other people's beers. How is that fitting into the beer ecosystem? The need for breweries to make beer for other breweries.
Well, I mean, obviously, everybody would love to just max out capacity in their own facility and make all the beer for themselves, but everybody has rent to pay. If you have to help somebody out, and on the other end, if you're a smaller brewery and you don't have the financial means to open your own or order the tanks and all that stuff, it's a very unique way for you to work with somebody and get your beer made. I'm just going to encourage it gets done in New York. That's all.
Yeah, Kenny, anything you want to say?
Well, I was gonna when we were talking about Long Island breweries just a little bit a while ago, I was gonna say when I'm born and raised in Long Island, and I grew up in Queens, and I had 12 years ago I had the dream to open up a brewery, which was unheard of, and when I couldn't do it down here, obviously financially, it was much more difficult. The laws were a lot different. Moved up to Athens, and I was able to accomplish that up there.
And tell us that you found what? It was an old...
It was an old opera house, and we kind of retrofitted to put a brewery in there. And
it's awesome.
But we're talking... This is 10 years ago, okay? When I left Long Island to do this, there was only 4 breweries on Long Island. That's it.
How many are there now?
Just
I couldn't
40,
even tell
I
you.
believe.
Just over 40.
There's 40 on Long Island now.
Wow.
There were only 4 breweries in New York City back then, too.
That's Long Island. That's not counting the 5 boroughs.
And more on the way, absolutely.
So you're talking about in a 10-year span, the growth of this industry, what has happened. But for me, I've been doing this a long time. Jimmy, I worked with Butternuts before I was with Crossroads, and got that beer on the map, and so I'm doing this probably 15, 16 years, and what I've seen across the board has been incredible. My only fear is that when's it going to stop? And, when is it going to stop? And when are we going to be so saturated with liquid and where people's heads are just going to blow off their bodies?
Yeah. Let's jump ahead from that because you've already made a commitment. You went from your original location and you've expanded to a larger facility.
Right. We still
so you're
have the original.
You're believing in it.
Well, Outrage IPA has been a horse for us, and we've held to our beliefs that the West Coast style IPA is going to make a comeback, and we still brew it today. We're dealing with a lot of obviously competition, local. I love the concept, and I love the local thing, and I want the cream to rise to the top. I think at this point, and I want people to understand. We want you to gravitate to local. We want you to obviously spend your money in the economy, but also understand that you have to decide for yourself, is that local beer, is that a good choice for yourself? Is there something out there that's better? So it's hard for a brewery to reinvent themselves over and over and over again. And I've always stuck to my guns and said, hey, listen, we believe in our styles. We believe in what we're doing. We need to continue doing that. And, eventually the trends will change and turn. But it's a difficult time in this industry. And like I said, I've been doing this 16 years. I've never seen anything like this. And it's hard for us as an established brewery to make the right decisions, commit to the right things, and commit to the right programs.
Anthony, you've been in the industry a long time. You're a restaurant owner. At what point did you decide to do more of a craft beer focused, local focused establishment?
I think fairly recently with the rise of the craft breweries. Like Andrew said, there's almost 40 on the island right now. Great South Bay was one of the first. Blue Point was definitely before them. There's so many, and it would be almost foolish to buy beer from another part of the world instead of selling what you have in your own backyard. Fresher beer, better ingredients, keeping your money local, and just overall brand recognition. And
Andrew, so what Kenny was saying, you have in the locals program, there's some criteria, and once you refresh my mind about what the criteria are again, but is there a quality criteria? Because at some point, someone that's not making
the quality
great beer
criteria
qualify.
Goes back the way certification marks work. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if you meet the standards, no matter what the relationship we have, you could curse me out as we meet. But if you meet the standards of what it is, I can't deny you from being a part of it. The quality comes back to if Kenny is putting his Crossroads logo on a can with the local to locals, I'm just certifying that it's a local product. I am not in any way, shape, or form making the beer. So it's his reputation that's on the line, and it's any brewery that's using their logo on a package it's about quality. And then down the road, I think, like he said, at some point this is going to get very oversaturated. And then two things are going to happen. Companies are going to start competing on price, and companies are going to compete on quality. So price will help the consumer, and quality will help everybody.
Honestly, I going back to it, I love the local thing. I think it's the greatest. Like Andrew, 30 seconds, I was done. I was in. I was like, I love it. But I also think it gives the local. We're keeping it all local, right? We're going to use that word local, and let the consumer decide. Let them say, hey, this is a great local product. We're going to continue buying this. We're going to continue keeping the money in the local.
Let's
industry.
talk more about that. So, like, if it's AB, they got a headquarter, there's shareholders. What are the jobs that are created when a business is in the community and other aspects?
There's plenty of jobs created, and that's why, like Anthony, I don't think at Coastal he's going to stop supporting Blue Point, nor should he, because they do create a ton of jobs on Long Island. The problem is, no matter what, there's a portion of that money that goes back to AB. It's not staying all in-house. And what we're just trying to encourage keeping your money here. And one other thing I'd like to bring up, because one of the biggest question is, what does it cost? What's this? There's always got to be. This isn't a money grab for me. This is a passion project of mine. I don't take a salary from it, and at any given point, if I do take a salary, it's because I've proven it to anybody else. And one of my biggest commitments is 10% of all revenues, not profits, revenues, get given back to local charities, small business initiatives, or if ever big enough, local infrastructure. So I would tell you, just in our first year being very, very small, we gave $500 back to the New York State Craft Brewers Association to become an allied member, to give back to the breweries that participated. And we gave back $500 to the New York State Association of Beverage Centers to give back to the beverage centers. Also, what was unique about, we threw an opening event at Coastal Kitchen November to launch everything.
Great night.
It was awesome. We did tap takeovers. Everybody does them, right? It's a pretty standard thing nowadays. So I wanted to think of something different. Anthony and I wanted to think of something different we could do. So we had 7 different breweries do a tap takeover, and it was a charity tap takeover. So each brewery picked a local charity of their choice, and for every beer sold that night, Anthony donated $1 to that charity. The breweries had the option to match it, and then we also did raffle baskets, gift baskets, and happened to be the one night in November that it decided to snow. But we still raised over $2,000.
Over $2,000.
And if the weather was good, he would have had to hire more bouncers and kick people out, probably.
Yep. Great night.
So we're drinking the Spider Bite Coconut Porter. What other beers did you bring, Andrew?
We brought some Crossroads Brewing Company. Then we had I had this left over, was a Raspberry Berliner Weiss. That was a collab from Spider Bite, Great South Bay, and Dubco. Gun Hill from the Bronx did Friend Zone, which is a tiramisu pastry ale. And then Dubco did a milkshake IPA. And actually, we're very, very excited for the next beer coming out. Is a collaboration between Destination Unknown and North Fork Donut Company. It's a little Homer Simpson-inspired beer, and this might take a few to get out, but it's a strawberry frosted donut milkshake IPA. And that's coming out, scheduled, I think, the February 20th week. That should be released.
Very excited. That's my favorite style.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's what's great about this. We give the breweries, because, again, I'm not making the beer, and there's a science to everything that the breweries do. I don't want you just to make IPAs. I don't want you to just make stouts. I want you to make what you guys want to make and showcase the talents you have and the science that goes behind it and the hard work that goes behind it.
So you're like the marketing guy. You're the guru that's kind of giving everyone a little direction.
I'm learning.
You're learning, right?
Without a suit.
Well, let's talk about marketing. Matt, so you said, remember the story of the guy who lived on beer for 40 days at Lent?
Yeah, it was like 7 years ago.
You brought that up. So you guys you made a beer at Fifth Hammer?
Yeah, so at Fifth Hammer, we've got in the tanks right now a Lent beer. It's a 7.5% Hellesbock, super malty, something maybe you could, if you wanted to sustain yourself for 40 days on only beer, this would be the one.
All you need is probably a little, Danny, you know about this, just a little vegetables and some vitamins, maybe.
Put some habanero in there.
Yes.
So you put habanero in your Lent beer, then you don't need any other food.
Spice it up.
Oh, and some spirulina.
But I love that story, and there's my buddy at Malt and Mold in the city, Kevin. He suggested a few years ago we did a thing called Liquid Lent, where we tried to feature Abbey style beers. During that time. So there's some legs to this. I love this idea, right? Yeah. 40 days of Lent.
And it's such a fad right now, at least in the city where I'm bartending, where people come in and they go, all right, so I want you to recommend something, but I don't like hops. I hate hops. It's very common now. Mm-hmm. And I think often they don't know what they like. They just know they don't like that. So having some malty options on tap lists right now.
Well, it's funny when you go to these breweries and you ask them in their tap room what their number one selling beer is. It's not an IPA. It's not a stout. It's not a sour. It's typically a Pilsner or a lager because you have the average customer, which is still the vast majority of beer consumers is the average customer wants something that's similar to what they know. Yeah. And the true trendy beer geek, beer nerd, whatever you want to call it, I'm one of them. I drink IPAs and I drink stouts. Is 1.5% of the market probably.
So for Lenten, the Doppelbock sales aren't going to go through the roof, guys.
No, but
the Hellesbock.
But that's what I like about having this L logo for your thing on these beers is anything that makes someone think about beer in a slightly different way for the first time is so positive. Someone came in just last week and asked for a Montauk style ale.
Wow.
My favorite thing about Montauk
What
is
does that mean?
My favorite thing about Montauk is they don't even know what they're drinking. Can I have the yellow Montauk? Can I have the blue
100%.
Montauk? And hey, I'm not knocking their marketing thing because whatever they did, that brand is on
I'm just saying,
fire.
like that. It just means there's education. Needs to
Yeah,
happen.
that's great. Let me just change the subject. So, New York State has a lot going on for it, from farm brewery licenses to a lot of reforms and all that. I want to give an example. In Colorado, I think they've had also a unique way of supporting their own the rise of the local craft breweries. And from what I understand, it was because the independent package stores sell wine, beer, and liquor, and then chains were not allowed to come in and sell beer. I don't know if you guys know anything about that.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm just familiar with New York State laws where you have to sell wine and liquor in a liquor store, and then beer could be sold essentially everywhere nowadays, which was not the case, and that's part of what hurts beverage centers nowadays. I'll go back to that aspect of my business. I'm legally only allowed to sell beverages, so I have to make a margin on it, and that's what sometimes people don't understand. But a place like Walgreens, Rite Aid, Stop and Shop, they could work on 5%, but when you go buy their Advil and their prescription drugs, they're going to make 100-something%. So it's
There's
an
a lot of
ongoing
competition.
It's an ongoing battle that we have.
The reason I brought up Colorado is I want to just finish this point.
I can tell. Listen, not to butt in, but I know for a fact that Andrew knows there's some loopholes that you can actually sell liquor and beer underneath the same roof.
with a wall in between.
Well, I'm going to say Colorado because it's a good example.
Not that he's doing.
what has been told is that because Colorado, only the independent store can sell wine, beer, and liquor. So that meant that every new upstart brewery could go to their local store, and they wanted the same thing you guys are talking about. They wanted to buy and serve a local beer. They weren't a chain buying large quantities and getting favorite terms from a big company.
Yeah, what's great about this whole thing, like I said, it's scalable to do nationwide on a state-by-state basis. So I just have to prove its concept in New York and that it's worth it. So Anthony wants to be a part of it for the remainder of his career in the restaurant business. So Crossroads wants to be a part of it.
But the in-state component is important. So this is a New York State program.
Absolutely.
Like Colorado has a certain way that they have retail stores.
Yeah, and correct. If this were to launch in Pennsylvania, California, now when you're in those states and you see the logo, it would be specific to that specific state.
That's an important part of what you're talking about. I really respect that.
And then what's great about it is that we want to be able to drive not only the local community to support local breweries, but anybody that's visiting as a tourist could now have an avenue to really go look up what truly is local. When I go to California on vacation, I don't need to go to another Applebee's. I've seen them. Maybe In-N-Out Burger, possibly, but I don't need to go see what another Walmart looks like. I want to know what truly is local to wherever I am, no matter where I go on vacation.
Okay, last chance for questions. Anyone has a question for Andrew about this program? Okay.
I don't have a question. I just want to say.
Of course you don't.
I mean, I've asked him a million questions. I just want to say, I give Andrew a lot of credit. I think he's solid.
Kenny,
what he's doing.
Ask Andrew one of the questions you've already asked him, so that we can learn something.
What do you mean? One of the questions.
Pretend you're starting over. I'm sure you have a question for Andrew before you join the program.
How many cases of Crossroads are you going to sell? No, no. Honestly, I just want to. I was so impressed with his just the whole movement, the local thing. I watched he has a quick YouTube thing. It was very professional. Like I said, I jumped on board 30 seconds into it. It was a no-brainer for us. I'm proud to be the first Hudson Valley brewery to join. And I think he's onto a really, really great thing. I'm looking forward to partnering with a lot of the not only breweries, but the restaurateurs, and also the home distributors down on Long Island that are part of this. And I think the networking is going to grow and grow and grow. And I think he's going to be the only one that's going to say, hey, how far is this going to go?
Okay, we're going to give the local shout-outs. We'll go around the room. Everyone's going to say the town where they're working and a place nearby that they like to eat that's local. Let's start with Joe. So what town you're working in and the place you like to eat?
Bayshore, Coastal Kitchen.
Anthony, besides your own.
Bayshore, I love to go to Tallulah's and Salt and Barrel.
Okay. Andrew in Hicksville.
Andrew, Hicksville, New Chili and Curry, and Legends on Broadway, and Margarita's Cafe. I'll throw a couple out.
Kenny, where should I go in Athens, New York?
Crossroads Brewery.
You got food there?
We do have food, yeah. We have a 100-seat restaurant there.
Oh, man. I didn't even, and Danny, out in your part of Brooklyn? Where should I eat?
I'm in Flatbush, Brooklyn, island to island, and I like to eat at Rispo and Catfish.
All right. And Matt, when you're in Fifth Hammer in Long Island City, where do you eat?
I send people to John Brown Smokehouse, but I want to shout out the Huntress, the new spot from the guys who own Baroness. It's a wing spot. So good.
Great. And Andrew,
I just want to make one last plug because Bayshore has been such a big part of getting this whole Local to Locals launched. Is in the summer they do a program, Alive by the Bay, which is a street festival that takes place on 4 different Tuesdays. I believe 3 in July. And
July 2nd, July 16th, July 30th.
2 weeks after.
Street gets closed down, live bands, live music, great local restaurants, and they will hopefully be featuring a lot of local beer this year.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys, I want to thank you guys all for coming on. Kenny from Crossroads, thanks for inviting your friends and helping to put this show together.
Thank you all of you.
And big shout out to producer Justin Kennedy, engineer in the booth, Matt Patterson, our intern extraordinaire, Dylan Hoyer. I'm Jimmy Carboni. I'm the host. Thanks for joining us on the Heritage Radio Network. We'll catch you next time on Beer Sessions Radio. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Woo!
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to learn more about our 10-year anniversary celebration happening all year long, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com, Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, and more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be part of the world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join the HRN family and become a member. Thanks for listening.